Good morning! You're watching the 5th episode of Discern with Jim Denison. I'm Jess, and as always, we're here with Jim. Good morning!
Good to be with you today, Jess. Thanks for the privilege.
We are counting down to our big launch on Monday, October 4th, when we'll be here every weekday morning to unpack the news with Jim. Until October 4th, we will be spending the next few episodes with Jim casting a vision for Discern. So what is Discern? Well, here we are trying to look at the news through a biblical perspective. If you're joining us for the first time, we've been spending the last couple of episodes talking about 5 ways that Christians have responded to culture in the past. So Jim, last episode you talked about Christ against culture, and today you're going to talk about Christ of culture. What do you mean by that?
We're working out of Richard Niebuhr's book called Christ and Culture. It's a really classic work, more than 50 years old, that has been used in seminaries. It was one of my textbooks in ethics back in the 80s, back in seminary days, back a very long time ago. But he has these 5 models. The first one is a Christ against culture. The second is Christ of culture. Then there's a Christ above culture, Christ and culture in paradox, and then Christ transforming culture, which is really the model we'll work with most in Discern. So the second of those is a Christ of culture model. Now this can be understood a variety of ways, but one way to understand it is that the church or the Christian would go where the culture goes, would follow the culture's trajectory, the culture's difference. This can be negative, obviously, as well as positive, but the idea would be that your faith, your understanding of culture aligns with the culture and its trajectory, its movement, and its future.
So when you say aligning with culture, that sounds like blending in or conforming, and we know that that can sometimes be problematic. But I'm wondering, are there times when it can be biblical, and do you have examples of that?
That's a negative and a positive, no question about that. In today's culture, we're seeing a number of Christians and Christian leaders, Christian authors and commentators who really do seem to be compromising with what the culture is deciding, whatever the issue might be, whatever that moral issue might be out there. The idea of trying to be relevant, almost chasing relevance and compromising biblical truth in order to do that. We obviously don't want to be doing that. We don't want to be cohering with that which isn't biblical. We want to be seeing culture through a biblical lens rather than the Bible through a cultural lens, as it were. On the positive side, however, we find all through Scripture the idea of using culture in a way to reach culture, using where the culture is going in a way that could be even more authentic and more helpful in being able to be missional. An example is what Paul did in his missionary journeys. He traveled on Roman roads. He used the Roman peace, as it were, of the day. He used Roman customs and often used the analogies that were current in the culture of the day. An example that comes to mind immediately is in a second missionary journey, he was imprisoned in a Philippian jail there in Acts 16. He appealed to his Roman citizenship, not only to avoid the kind of suffering and punishment that would have been the case otherwise, but more especially in order to endorse the Christian ministry there that he would be leaving as he left Philippi, to give an endorsement to that by virtue of his own Roman citizenship. So there are times when we certainly can use the culture to reach the culture. What we're doing right now is an example of that, using digital technology, using contemporary means in order to reach people. It's Paul's idea of using all things to becoming all things to all people, that he might by all means save some. So when we can use the culture to reach the culture, then we're being missional, and we're following this kind of Christ of culture model in a way that really does honor the Lord and advance the kingdom.
So it seems likely that we will see examples of Christ of culture when we start unpacking the news, and we'll call that out as we see it.
Absolutely true. That'll be true of all 5 models. I think there will be times when the right thing to do is a Christ against culture model where we certainly don't want to go that direction, don't want to be pulled in that way. There will be other times when we'll see opportunities in the culture to advance the gospel by finding alignment, finding common cause, finding ways of working together. And so definitely these models will be something we'll talk about a good deal going forward, in this one especially.
That's all we have for y'all today. On our next episode, we're going to be looking at a 3rd way that Christians have responded to culture, which is Christ above culture. We'll see you next time on Discern.